already. It is Thanksgiving week, friends, and it's so good to see you in worship. We're Bluegrass United Church of Christ, and this is the first time that you are joining us. We welcome you. And for those of you who are committed and welcome and joining us week after week, it is such a thrill for us to see folks check in on Sunday mornings and for Pastor Chat. So welcome to Sunday morning worship. A very special worship service this morning, Kenny, as your husband Mason is going to bring us some comments in recognition of Native American Heritage Month. We're thrilled to have Mason.
Thank you. You know, I'm very proud of him, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. But it's good for me to be able to be back with you all. Thank you for allowing me a little extra time and space last week to tend to some work matters that came up and required my attention. So thank you for the grace.
Oh, you're welcome. It's good to have you back.
We had fun last
week.
Oh, it looked like you did.
But you always make Brenda Gardner so nervous when you're not here. She looks at me like, what are we going to do for music? But it's good to have you back.
Everybody steps up. Everybody always steps up and plays to their strengths.
And we have a few announcements, as always. So, Pam, start with us.
We do. As many of you know, Marsha, Kenny, and I will be on Facebook Live on our church page Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. One of us will be on there having a little chat after the news. It's one of our favorite times of the evening.
Absolutely. And then on Saturdays,
on Saturdays, we have Seenagers. So if you're looking for a place to have a little community, Jeff Wood gets on there every week at 11 o'clock, puts the link on our page, and it's a time for fellowship, and often he has a topic to talk about.
We also want to tell y'all how much we appreciate your continued support for the church. And on that note, you will be getting a letter from our moderator, Stacy Green, and our treasurer, Bonnie Meek, sometime probably the end of this week, first of next week, for all of us to have an opportunity to commit to what we might be able to give for 2021. And we appreciate all the work our council does behind the scenes. We appreciate those of you who are continuing to support us. And we know that in a pandemic that can change some things. So we also want you to know we understand that. As pastors, we don't have a clue who gives and who doesn't. Right. But what we do know is that faithful people just take care of it. And those who can give more, give more. And those who may have to take a break from that, they have to take a break from that. Mm-hmm. So we want you to just continue to support as you can and know how much we appreciate that. And then I'm so excited, along with Kenny and Pam and Brenda, to tell you about our new Advent series, I Believe Even When. Fill the night with music and light. It begins next Sunday. We can't wait. And if you did not receive, I sent out this week via Simple Church through email, I sent an 8-page document out. It's a packet of sorts. We want to be able to connect in so many ways, even in this virtual pandemic time. So if you didn't get one of those packets and would like one, it is just chock full of information about our Advent series, including every Sunday's themes and who's going to be preaching on those Sundays. It also has, we're going to do a virtual film festival. I've seen these films. They're amazing. And then for kids and adults. And for kids, of course, you would think Marsha McPhee and I were friends because she's starting out with a Charlie Brown Christmas. But there's things on there like How the Grinch Stole Christmas and Polar Express is our last film. And so every Thursday from 5:30 to 6, I'm going to be on Zoom with the kids. And we know our kids know how to do Zooms now, right? Buddy. From 5:30 to 6. So invite your kids in the house and maybe you'll watch those films with them. And I'll talk to them a little bit about the themes of the films. And then I'll take about a 30-minute break for supper and come back from 6:30 to 7:30 and talk to adults about the film for the week. So the packet has that. And also a devotion. It's an amazing devotion. Kenny, I don't have mine with me. Grab yours.
I took mine to the office. I don't have it in front of me.
Well, it's somewhere. Brenda Gardner has one somewhere. She'll get that while we're doing it. But it really, really is a great Advent devotional. And if you would like one of those, again, private message me or send me an email at marsha@bluegrasschurch.org and we will mail you one. My mom's going to be helping me put those in the mail. Here it is. It's called Lo, an Honest Advent Devotional. And if I can just read this really quickly, here's the back cover. Let's be honest about Advent. We often feel pressure to have it all together and to hide our struggles, to pretend we're merry when we're frustrated and stressed and exhausted. In this honest Advent devotional, progressive Christian leader and author John Pavlovitz reminds us that God came to meet us in the low places of our lives. These daily devotions speak to the breadth of our journeys, the joy and the grieving, the celebration and the suffering, the belief and the doubt, the good tidings and the bad days. I tell you, I've already read through these and they're amazing. We want to get one to you, so get us your address and we'll make sure of that. And then we may even do a little Christmas caroling social distance. We'll see how the weather is for that in December. But the idea is we'll land somewhere downtown and sing about 20 minutes of Christmas carols to fill the night with music and light. So a lot going on, Kenny and Pam and Brenda, for this series. And we want you all to connect in ways that you can. We're excited for the series.
Hard to believe it's Advent.
It
really.
is.
It's just been a year. You know, something that we are super excited to announce this morning is the City of Lexington has a program called Green Check, Live Green Lex, Green Check. And my husband Mason has been working with them over the last, probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point,
I think it's been
quite
two.
a while, to actually get our church certified as a Green Check organization. And so LFUCG announced this past week how many different organizations, maybe 6 different organizations in town have been certified as Green Check members, and ours was one of them.
That's fantastic. So, Mason, thank you for that and for raising our awareness of the environment and the good we can do in being green. And there's a lot. I saw the checklist and was overwhelmed a couple of years ago. So it was a lot of work. Yeah. We're excited to announce that. And that's part of our being the church, right on our thing, to take care, protect the environment. That's right under our first topic, to protect the environment. So we're doing our part, and we appreciate Mason and all of you that supportive of that.
And you know, of course, Mason was very instrumental in this, and Rita worked with him as well.
Rita Swan, she's
Rita
also
Swan
amazing.
Worked with Mason. And that's one of the reasons I'm super excited about this morning and hearing from Mason. And we're going to hear his heart and hear what motivates him to pursue. You know, it's hard to separate the indigenous people from the earth, and that's why it's so deep in Mason's heart. And I'm looking forward to hearing from him later on this morning, and we want you to stay with us. And I want to mention to you too that at the end of our service this morning, we're going to hear from Joy Harjo, who, as a matter of fact, those of you who tuned in and listened and watched the announcements before we go live here, the music you heard was from Joy Harjo.
Oh, wow, it was beautiful.
And she is also the U.S. Poet Laureate here in the United States and was recently reappointed. And we're going to hear from her at the very, very end of the service today, too. So before you tune out, make sure you stay around and listen to that. A lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff going on. It's so good to have everyone with us.
It is.
How about that deep breath, Kenny?
Let's take that deep breath. Let's breathe in the air that God has gifted us with and blessed us with, and let's release it back to God in thanksgiving, this time of thanks, and let us lift our voices and sing. This is God's wondrous world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is God's wondrous world. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, God's hand the wonders wrought. This is God's wondrous world. The birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is God's wondrous world. God shines in all that's fair, in the rustling grass or mountain pass, God's voice speaks everywhere. This is God's wondrous world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that
is the ruler yet. This is God's wondrous world. Why should my heart be sad? Let voices sing, let the heavens ring. God reigns, let earth be glad.
Well, good morning, kids, and it's good to see you all. Again, when I say see you all, I know I'm seeing you through a screen, but I feel close to you. This morning, we're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving because it's a big holiday in our culture. But you know, kids, we always want to be honest with you, whether it's things about Scripture or things about history, the best that we know it. And what most of us heard in school is sort of this false story. Well, not this sort of, it really was a false story of settlers, the early settlers, of pilgrims, and the Native Americans coming together and having this big feast, and everyone now wears costumes lots of times, and they act like it was one big happy family. But the truth is, it wasn't. It was really a harvest celebration in the Native American community. It was a time when they celebrated what the earth was able to give to them and how they took care of it. They did share it with the early settlers, but then those settlers became greedy and selfish and mean. They stole their land, they stole the graves of their loved ones, and they disrespected their culture in really horrific ways. So Thanksgiving can be a complex holiday depending on what eyes we see it through. And that's sort of like it is for us, isn't it? Do any of you all have family that sometimes don't get along and you hear your parents saying, oh, we're going to whoever's house and whoever's going to be there and we're not sure how it's going to go? I think we all have some family like that. It can be sometimes confusing and difficult. And yet it also is this day that we can celebrate. And so we do celebrate. And I want us to think about the lessons that the Indigenous people, the Native American people gave to us. And here's what they celebrated: the gratitude for creation and nature, the human need for connecting with one another and getting together with each other, and for appreciating the environment. And they also had this lesson, which is remarkable. And I know that Mason will be able to tell this story better than me. But they gave this lesson of giving without expectation of anything in return. The lesson for us kids, all of us, so many times we may give things, but we give it thinking, oh, if I do this, someone else is going to do this for me. But the meaning really of being thankful and showing gratitude is to give and share without expecting anything in return. Now, I brought a glass pie thing with me today, and I want to talk to you just briefly about how we do that as a church. We give things like this: food and resources, kindness and love, comfort and friendship, time and talents. It's all of these things as a church family that we give to one another. And sometimes some of us have more time. Some of us have more financial resources. Some of us have this ability to just make people feel better when we're around them. When people are hurting or grieving or sad or lonely, we're able to give love and friendship and kindness. Being thankful and showing gratitude is to share all of these things the best way we know how. And so this week, as you gather, whether it's with your family that's going to be much smaller this year because of COVID, or however you celebrate, remember these two things: the lesson of our Native American kinfolk who taught us to love the environment and to give thanks for it, and to give all of these things to one another and to the world without expecting anything in return. Let's say a prayer. Dear God, help us share all that we have, with those in need. Teach us to be grateful.
Teach us to be grateful
without expecting
anything
anything in return.
anything in return.
Thank you for your creation.
Thank you for your creation.
Teach us to care for it.
Teach us to care for
and to
it.
love it.
And to love it.
And to love one another.
And to love one another.
Amen.
Amen.
It only takes a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around will warm up to its glowing. That's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you spread God's love to everyone you want to pass it on.
Here at Bluegrass, we share together the joys and concerns of our week and of our lives. I have a pretty long list this morning, so I'm going to get started. And while I'm doing that, if you have a concern, Marcia and Tim will be watching the feed to see if you have something that you've lifted up this morning. Iggy is home recovering from his broken hip, but he had a loss of his friend, his little fur baby this week, and his heart is broken. So we want to remember Iggy. We want to remember those. All right, now I'm on. So if you have prayer concerns, if you want to give it to Marcia and Kenny and the live stream feed, we'll be more than happy to pray for that this morning. We want to remember Iggy, who is still, he's at Bob Brown House now recovering from his broken hip, but he lost his little dog this week, and so he is needing prayers for his grief. We want to pray for all those who are traveling this weekend, who are going to gather with some family, but we also want to remember Enid. We want to remember our friend in North Carolina, Cindy Law. She had a pretty hard week this week. Jerry Sin has been having some pain. We want to remember Karen and Liz have asked for prayers. We want to remember our friend Bob Smart. We want to remember Travis. Hines has a friend who lost his mother this week, so we want to remember Billy Martin this week. Darlene Wheaton's nephew's father, Ron White. A joy this morning is that Daniel Beasley passed his comp, so we're offering prayers and celebration this morning on that. I know Daniel is excited. And Timmy Smallwood graduated with his master's yesterday, and if you follow him on Facebook, you can see pictures of him walking down a sidewalk. Skeet and Judith had an anniversary yesterday, and happy anniversary, and we're so happy you found each other. Paula Smith's friend and her family. I spoke with Stanley this week, and Stanley wanted me to tell you all how much he loves you. And he keeps a little journal of prayers that he prays when he's riding the bus to work every day. And he said if you want to be put on that prayer list, that he would love to add your name. So if you have a concern that you want Stanley to pray for, let's give Stanley a call. We want to remember small businesses, and we want to remember the workers who are without work right now because restaurants have closed down. We want to remember those in nursing home and facilities and teachers and students. And Cynthia Buckner's friend has tested positive for COVID, so we want to remember her. Are there others?
Cynthia Buckner's has a friend whose brother died. We want to remember that family. And also at our church, we have 6 folks in our church family who've tested positive for COVID. And so we want to remember them. And it has also touched my business. A key employee of mine, her entire family, her husband and 3 children have it in Pikeville. And they've had a tough time, so we want to remember them. And Cindy Hansen said they're happy to announce that their fur baby, Daisy, has finally been discharged from doctor's care after foot surgery.
All right, let's prepare ourselves for prayer.
Fill my cup, Lord. I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up and make me whole.
Friends, let's join together in prayer this morning. On this day, we gather together as a people who are connected by the love of the one who was, who is, and who always will be, our creator of all things. Some of us this morning are in the sanctuary. Some of us are sitting on the couch still in our pajamas. And some of us are listening as we wash dishes in the kitchen. But we're together. And your love beckons us this day to gifts of life and love and relationships and hope. God, you've gifted us with a world so vast, so expanse. But yet the details are so precise and beautiful. You beckon us forward. You undergird us with hope, and you raise us into the realms we never imagined as we each become your creation. We are so blessed this morning. So we raise just a few of our thank yous today. Thank you for the blessing of water, for the way it quenches thirst and cleans our world, and for the sound of waves and the rhythm of crashes along the shore. Thank you for sunsets and sunrises, and for mountains and for deserts and plains and coastal areas. Everywhere we look, our senses are overloaded with your beauty. For the warmth of air on our skin, for the sound of rain on a tin roof, for the taste of an apple, an offering from your earth, for the smell of fresh baked bread as we enter Grandma's house. And giver of all. I could go on and on and on, and still there would be more to thank you for. Thank you for the ongoing resurrection of our spirits, for peace given to us in chaos, for the hope in the time of trouble, and for your love that raises us up as a people over and over and over again. On this day, we lift all the spoken and unspoken prayer requests into your realm. You heal, you calm, you lead, you beckon us higher and higher into the realms of your wonder. On this day, at this time, we need you, O God. We need your guidance to lead us forward, to inspire us to make justice happen. Fill us with kind hearts. Help us to see our neighbor wherever we are. And help us to be the church. Thank you for love, for this sweet, sweet church, and for your wonder. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen.
Fill my cup, Lord. I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Fill my cup, fill it up and make me whole. Let the heavens rejoice. Let the earth be glad. Let the sea resound and all that is in it. Let the fields be jubilant and everything in them. Let all the trees of the forest sing for joy. Psalm 96. Well, like so many other things this year, Thanksgiving is going to look quite a bit different for most of us. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? It's almost sardonic that we would take a moment, a pause, to be thankful and grateful for a year that's brought us so much anxiety. But it is the Thanksgiving season, and even if we do it out of stubbornness or defiance or rebellion, by golly, we're going to be grateful. We may say it through gritted teeth, but we're going to wish the world a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll very soon do the same with happy holidays in just a few days. For all the challenges and emotions we've known since our last Thanksgiving season, we can surely be grateful that God has never ever left us alone, abandoned us in our need. Now, I'm keenly aware that not everyone is feeling so grateful today. There are many who are still in the thick of their own personal battles. Pam and Marcia mentioned several of them just a few minutes ago, some of them COVID-related and some not. And I know that it's not always easy to feel fortunate when you feel swallowed by misfortune. But if I could encourage you at all today, it would be to simply and gently remind you that if you can't think of a thing at all to be grateful for, please be reminded that this little church is holding you close, lifting you up, talking to God, sometimes pleading on your behalf, and we're always ready to minister to you. I hope you can find some comfort in that and maybe even be grateful for it, because we are grateful. As your church and your pastors, your faith community, we're grateful to God that we do get to be those things for you. Now, one of the things that I'm most grateful for are the wonderful people and relationships in my life. I'm surrounded by caring friends and trusted co-workers. I never had sisters growing up, but I do have two beautiful ones now in Marcia and Pam. Being a grandpa is one of the most magnanimous things I'll ever get to be. And I get to be a G-Pa 4 times. The most incredible joy I'll ever know is hearing my kids, Casey and Christian, call me Dad. And the love of my life, Mason, brings me happiness that I can't begin to express. I am incredibly blessed. I'm blessed to have people in my life who encourage me, cheer me on, lift me up, hold me close, and keep me in check. And they teach me things. Mason and I met several years ago. Back then, he was busy getting his own life sorted out. So was I. But over the years, I've watched him dig deep and search for himself. I've observed as he's learned more and more about his people, his heritage, his land. And he's going to tell you more about himself in just a little bit. But I wanted to make sure that you get to see him as I have. I've watched him connect in spiritual ways with his indigenous ancestors and the sacred meaning that it's brought to his life. It's been beautiful to see and inspiring to follow. And I'm proud today that he's here to bring us to a place of provoking wisdom and thoughtful thanksgiving. I've learned a lot at Mason's encouraging. I've learned that there's a sacredness in creation, and that creation rejoices in the declaration of God's work in the world. The Bible is full of texts that remind us of the importance and the sacredness of that creation. The psalmist said, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of God's hands." As nature itself gives thanks for its sacredness, let us join in that declaration and be reminded of those who came before us, those who loved, treasured, and tended to this land and all that it held long before us. And let us be filled with thanksgiving as Mason comes.
Good morning. My name is Mason Miller Bishop, and I am from the Pueblos of Acoma, Laguna, and Zuni, located in what is now called New Mexico. The song from the announcement loop is from Joy Harjo. She is of the Muskogee Creek Nation, and she is a musician and the first Native American poet laureate. There will be a short video towards the end of the service, as Kenny said, featuring a poem by Miss Harjo. And the photos you'll see later on during my Thanksgiving address were created by Thosh Collins. He is Osage, Pima, and Iroquois. And I make a point to give credit and to say their names out loud to exemplify the diversity among Indigenous peoples, which you can see here in this map. This is a map of what North America looked like prior to European and Spanish contact. It's so colorful because it indicates where all of the Indigenous territories were or are today. Many of them overlap because these communities were migratory and because borders on the land are arbitrary colonial constructs. Here in Kentucky, we are primarily on Cherokee and Shawnee land. This land was also used by the Chickasaw, Osage, and Yuchi. These people nurtured the land and loved it, prepared it for use today. These people were forcibly removed by the U.S. government. We are on native land. If you are not in Kentucky, I encourage you to find out whose land you occupy, and I hope that after today, you can begin to think about why you might make reparations or help give land back. No matter where you are on native land. The United Church of Christ has a long history of standing up for underrepresented people, and they are even responsible for coining the term environmental racism. They helped establish that or prove that less affluent communities, which are typically communities of color, suffer from environmental disparities more often than richer or white communities. The UCC has rallied for the people of Flint in their fight for clean water and stood with the Standing Rock Nation as they battle against pipelines. Now, my husband and I, we consider ourselves amateur gardeners, bringing the story a little closer to home. We love pretty, interesting, and diverse plants. And trying to incorporate some food plants in our yard, I've installed a plot of Three Sisters. My version had glass gem corn, Cherokee Trail of Tear beans, and jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. I also have a 3-pile compost system going as my way of renewing the earth. The other day, the grandkids came to pick some pumpkins, and I loved overhearing Kenny try to explain what compost piles are. I think I heard him say something like, "We're making dirt," which is about as simple and beautiful as it can get. Occasionally, Kenny comes home with a new plant, and one day over the summer, he came home with a bushy Unanimous Fortunii. Put it in a pretty pot and proudly put it on display. If you're not familiar with the scientific name, Unanimous Fortunii is winter creeper, and it's considered an invasive species. It comes from East Asia. We see it everywhere, crawling across lawns and climbing up trees and buildings. Invasive species are called so because they smother the native plants by consuming all of the resources available, and they do not provide food to local animals. We see them all over because they are still sold in plant shops, along with honeysuckle, burning bush, English ivy. Those of us working in ecological restoration are always removing these, and it's a truly maddening aspect to the work that we do. Now, I've been learning a lot, not just about ecology, but also my heritage and the unjust nature of the systems we are forced to live in. We being all of us. And I have to admit that I'm angrier and sadder than the last time I was up here. I cannot help but to feel pain, empathizing with my ancestors and Indigenous brothers and sisters. for many of us see this world as post-apocalyptic. This upcoming Thursday, while most people will be feasting on Thanksgiving, I will be fasting, honoring it as the National Day of Mourning. I do not begrudge anyone who chooses to celebrate Thanksgiving, for it has become a tradition embedded in American culture. It prompts us to prepare large meals, travel, and the end goal is to gather with loved ones. Now, I do not speak for all of us Indigenous peoples. Some celebrate Thanksgiving as a celebratory, we resisted, we're still here. It does, however, as Marcia pointed out earlier in the children's moment, have some darker origins that perpetuate a myth and a scary framework that plays a key part in the way people of color live today. Now, I want to pause for a moment here and say, if you begin to feel uncomfortable in any way, I ask that you lean into that discomfort and ask yourself why. It's healthy to challenge the way that we think. It's how we learn. And it's one of the benefits of diversifying your perspective to include people that do not look like you. It is the first step to decolonize your mind. As an Indigenous person raised by a white man, receiving a white man's education in Kentucky, I can promise you that I have had to challenge my own thinking because I was taught the same things as you. Thanksgiving not only marks the beginning of the mass genocide against the original people and the slow destruction of this land, but actually tells a false narrative that the Pilgrims and Indians feasted peacefully together, a story perpetuated by Abraham Lincoln in an attempt to whitewash America's exploitative nature. In reality, the Europeans came here on a mission from God to claim all of the land that they could find. The Spanish came here to convert everyone to Christianity. Both countries did this by any means necessary: residential schools, forced removal, murder, rape, maiming, and they brought disease along with them. This is a story of colonialism planted in a pretty pot and put on display. And by the way, if the original story of gathering at someone's home and spreading diseases or viruses on Thanksgiving doesn't teach us anything this year during a pandemic, then when Indigenous peoples were forcefully removed from their homelands, they were separated from their livelihoods. Our traditional landscapes have foods, medicines, and stories. They are our places of origin and where we go when our bodies can no longer sustain our spirits. Our relationship with the land is not one-sided. Mother Earth gives us abundant gifts, and Indigenous people know how to give gifts back to her, gifts of sustainability, care, and gratitude. They manage this land in such a way that was sustainable for themselves and for her. Today, Indigenous people remain the sole protectors of the majority of Earth's biodiversity. By separating Native peoples from their traditional homelands, both continue to suffer. And that trauma gets passed down from generation to generation. That is why it's important for me to heal, so I don't carry that pain and pass it along. And it's important for you to understand that truth. My own Native mother, who I never got to meet, died a lonely alcoholic death. I myself have survived the many abuses of an alcoholic father, and I've pushed back and held my own alcoholic demon at bay for over 8 years. Everything I have learned about my heritage has been on my own, and it's been hard. The unfairness makes me angry. And I know I'm not alone. Many Indigenous people's stories are not unsimilar from my own, just the details are different. Statistically, Native people have higher rates of suicide, missing persons, especially women and children, depression, alcoholism, drug addiction, diabetes, and other health issues. These are historical traumas manifested, and the result is the endangerment of our culture and languages. Meanwhile, the invasive colonialistic species is hard at work. Large-scale farming of monoculture crops has depleted our soil. Coal mining has removed entire mountaintops. The forests are wildly on fire. Animals and plants are going extinct. Ecosystems are collapsing. The atmosphere becomes more and more toxic. Ice is melting. Dams and border walls hinder natural animal migrations and water flow. And that's only a little bit. Colonialism has come in, taken up all the resources, killing the mother that we share. In a system designed by white people for white people, it is going to take the solidarity of all of us to decolonize this framework. At the end of the day, we are using the same land. That's not going to change, and no one is asking for that to change. I know that we all want to be happy, and I believe that we want that for each other, but there's a disconnect. This has been a big year of social and racial unrest. We've seen countless protests because Black lives do matter. And that has been a huge push in the direction of decolonization. And it's only the beginning. And you know what? Some of your white ancestors were allies too. In 1830, when Andrew Jackson implemented the Indian Removal Act, there were protests back then too, because even some white people knew that it was wrong. Knowing that we have always had allies gives me hope. The fact that I'm standing up here and that BCC would have me speak, period, is a step toward decolonization. Me being here is proof of the resiliency of my ancestors. Now, I'd love for you to join me in the Onondaga Nation Thanksgiving address again. It is a little lengthy, but I would like to remind you that Indigenous people acknowledge that the energy and time it takes to say these words gives them power and meaning. The things that we are going to be expressing gratitude for are not things. They are gifts from our mother, always giving. Take care of these gifts so that you can give them away too. Today we have gathered, and when we look upon the faces around us, we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now, let us bring our minds together as one as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. We are thankful to our Mother, the Earth, for she gives us everything that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us, just as she has from the beginning of time. To our Mother, we send thanksgiving, love, and respect. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst, providing strength and nurturing life for all beings. We are grateful that the waters are still here and meeting their responsibility to the rest of creation. Let us agree that water is important to our lives and bring our minds together as one to send greetings and thanks to the water. We turn our thoughts to all of the fish life in the water. They were instructed to cleanse and purify the water. They also give themselves as food. We are grateful that they continue to do their duties and send to the fish our greetings and thanks. Now we turn toward the vast fields of plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. They sustain many life forms. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and look forward to seeing plant life for many generations to come. When we look about us, we see that the berries are still here, providing us with delicious foods. The leader of the berries is the strawberry, the first to ripen in the spring. We are grateful that the berries are with us in the world and send our thanksgiving, love, and respect to the berries. With one mind, we honor and thank all of the food plants we harvest from the garden, especially the three sisters who feed the people with such abundance. We gather together in our minds all of the plant foods and send them a greeting and thanks. Now we turn to the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. They are always waiting and ready to heal us. With one mind, we send thanksgiving, love, and respect to the medicines and the keepers of the medicines. Standing around us, we see all the trees. The earth has many families of trees who each have their own instructions and uses. Some provide shelter and shade, others fruit and beauty, and many other useful gifts. The maple is the leader of the trees to recognize its gift of sugar when the people need it most. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree life. We gather our minds together to send our greetings and thanks to all the beautiful animal life of the world. They have many things to teach us as people, and we are grateful that they continue to share their lives with us and hope that it will always be so. Let us put our minds together as one and send our thanks to the animals. We put our minds together as one and thank all the birds who move and fly about above our heads. The Creator gave them the gift of beautiful songs. Each morning they greet the day and with their songs remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The eagle was chosen to be their leader and to watch over the world. To all the birds, from the smallest to the largest, we send our joyful greetings and thanks. We are thankful for the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voices in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air we breathe. They help to bring the change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bringing us messages and giving us strength. With one mind, we send our greetings and thanks to the four winds. Now we turn to the west, where our grandfathers, the thunder beings, live. With lightning and thundering voices, they bring with them the water that renews life. We bring our minds together as one to send greetings and thanks to our grandfathers, the thunderers. We now send greetings and thanks to our eldest brother, the sun. Each day without fail, he travels the sky from east to west, bringing the light of a new day. He is the source of all the fires of life. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our brother, the sun. We put our minds together and give thanks to our oldest grandmother, the moon. She lights the nighttime sky. She is the leader of women all over the world, and she governs the movement of the ocean tides. By her changing face, we measure time. And it is the moon who watches over the arrival of children here on earth. Let us gather our thanks for Grandmother Moon together in a pile, layer upon layer of gratitude, and then joyfully fling that pile of thanks high into the night sky so that she will know it. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to our grandmother, the moon. We give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them at night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bringing dew to the gardens and growing things. When we travel at night, they guide us home. With our minds gathered as one, we send greetings and thanks to all the stars. We gather our minds to greet and thank these enlightened teachers who have come to help throughout the ages. When we forget how to live in harmony, they remind us of the way we were instructed to live as people. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to these caring teachers. We now turn our thoughts to the Creator, or Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds together as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. We have now arrived at the place where we end our words. Of all the things we have named, it is not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way. Thank you.
Mason, that was beautiful. And on behalf of the church and our church family, we want to thank you for sharing your story and the story of the Indigenous people. I've shared this with Mason before, but I was doing some Ancestry.com stuff a few months ago. And I knew that I had a Cherokee Indian in me, but I didn't know how close it was. In fact, my great-grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee Indian. Interesting enough, Mason, as I looked at birth certificates and other records of census from all those hundreds of years ago, it stopped with her and it just simply said Indian. It was almost as if she didn't have a name, she didn't have ancestry. The tree stopped at the word Indian. That too is an example of how colonized our country has become. So thank you for challenging us and reminding us. And that fact about my great-grandmother has stuck with me these months, and I've struggled to think of how folks were treated, our Native American kindred, those of us who have that blood in us, that their story seemed to stop. And yet we gather around a table where the presence of God and the example of Jesus, our brother, reminds us that we are all named. We are all loved. We are not named by documents and census and government labels, but we are named beloved child. And at this table, we're given more than just some bread and juice, but we are given love and grace, forgiveness, and hope. I think it's interesting to be reminded that on the last night that Jesus would gather with all those who were following and even some who got in the door at the last minute, he took a token from the earth, from the wheat in the field, and he took the bread and he blessed it. And then he said to them, "Take and share this, and make sure everyone gets what they need. And every time you gather, remember my life." As was his Jewish custom after supper, he took a cup, and he blessed the cup also coming from the fruit of the vine of the earth. And he said, "This cup is a sign of a new promise I'm making with you. Though I will not be here with you physically, I will leave my spirit with you to live in you and through you." The Indigenous people are so mindful and intentional about calling upon the spirits of creation and of ancestry, and indeed of God, their Creator. May we do likewise as we say the Lord's Prayer together. our Creator who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Friends, in whatever way you may gather this Thursday, may you be mindful of gratefulness and mindful of the need for all of us to share the fruit and the wheat and the love and the grace and the hope and the peace and indeed the joy with everyone. May we work together, strengthened by this meal.
Come to the table of grace. Come to the table of grace. This is God's table, it's not yours or mine. Come to the table of grace. Come to the table of peace. Come to the table of peace. This is God's table, it's not yours or mine. Come to the table of peace. Come to the table of love. Come to the table of love. This is God's table, it's not yours or mine. Come to the table of love. Come to the table of joy. Come to the table of joy. This is God's table, it's not yours or mine. Come to the table of joy.
Friends, having been fed by God's Spirit and led likewise, may we give thanks and gratefulness, and as part of that, give back to the ministry of this church. We try to offer so many things, a lot that is shared on the slide you're seeing. But we try to change lives, show love, share the good news, give hope and comfort, feed the hungry, minister to this community, provide a safe place, and speak truth. Mason, I don't know that it's ever been done more beautifully and intimately for you to speak your truth. And in that we learn. May we indeed be the church, that these offerings are not to sustain a Taj Mahal building, but to move beyond these walls, to accept the challenge, to make the world better, so that the world knows we're here not by our destruction of creation, but instead by our sustenance of it. May it be so. Brothers and sisters, as we prepare to sing together our closing hymn, once again we're so excited to announce a new member. This member from California, Melody Grace Ware, who joins our pastor chats and Sunday morning worship. So friends, she has to get up pretty early because it's 7 o'clock her time when we start. Melody, it has been our thrill to get to know you in a virtual way. We welcome you. We think of you and your wife and your family often, especially when you all were having to flee from the forest fires. But we welcome you to be part of our church family. Maybe others of you who are watching or participate would like to say, you know what, this is the church that I feel home at, even in this pandemic. We would love to welcome you. I think we're up to about 20 new members during COVID. What a blessing. What gratitude we have. So perhaps you want to join Melody and others and just email us or put it on Facebook, I would like to be a member of the church family. We would love to welcome you in that way. Let's sing together.
We've adapted this song for this moment. Listen to the song of the wind. Listen to the song of the wind. Listen to the song of the wind. Listen, God is singing. God is singing. Listen to the calm of the stream. Listen to the calm of the stream. Listen to the calm of the stream. Listen, God is singing. God is singing. Listen to the call of the flame. Listen to the call of the flame. Listen to the call of the flame. Listen, God is singing. God is singing. Listen to the cry of the land. Listen to the cry of the land. Listen to the cry of the land. Listen, God is singing. God is singing. Listen, silence speaks to the heart. Listen, silence speaks to the heart. Listen, silence speaks to the heart. Listen, God is singing. God is singing.
Before Kenny gives us our charge and blessing, I do have something to share with our church family on request from our beloved friend, Bob Smart. And it goes and reads like this: to pastors, elders, and church family. Dear blessed church family, I'm writing to let you know that I will be permanently moving to McAllen, Texas on Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. That'd be a week from Tuesday, friends. Bob continues, I'm going to join my partner, Rick Marino, and build a life and home with him. It is with sadness that I leave my wonderful little church. Due to the distance that I will be physically from the church, I feel that it's necessary to resign from my elder duties. I've been very honored and blessed to be one of your elders these past several years. I will continue to be a member of the church and hope to keep in touch through the various internet mediums that are available. Bluegrass United Church of Christ is making a difference in our community and is a beacon of light for fairness and equality. I wish a great future for our church and the wonderful work being done. Yours in Christ, Bob Smart. Bob, it goes without saying how much we will miss you. And we know you'll be with us virtually, but when we were in person, the thing we looked forward to every Sunday was a Bob Smart hug.
Yeah.
He would come in as we were preparing for worship. He was always early and would come up and make the rounds. And it didn't matter what we were rehearsing or where we were in it. He would come and just hug.
I think he made the rounds everywhere.
He made it everywhere.
Yeah.
Bob, you've been so instrumental in our community with Alcoholics Anonymous and all the work you've done with so many people on that journey. You've been such an incredible part of this church and a friend. We wish you well, and we wish you happiness in Texas, you and Rick. So you go with our love, and you go with our blessing, and you go with our connection that will remain. Bless you, our dear brother.
Goodness, we're going to miss that man.
We are.
You know, one of the things that I've said this often, when we were able to meet in person and gather, and especially when we'd sing those old hymns and those old church songs, for somehow I could close my eyes and hear Bob's voice above all the others. And then you'd open your eyes and you'd look and he'd be reared back.
Reared back singing,
just
that's right.
Singing his... Bob, we're going to miss you, friend. We are truly, truly, truly going to miss you. And I'll say that for me and for Mason. He and Mason have known each other longer than I've known the two of them, as a matter of fact. And so we're going to miss you. Going to miss you so much. And we'll be praying for you.
And if you need some help getting things together, you let us know, and we will, in the pandemic, rally, put on masks, social distance, do whatever we need to do, Bob, if you need some help. Because we know you've had some lung issues in the hospital the last week or so, so we want to be here for you too.
We do. Friends, I know that this is Thanksgiving week, and we've heard from several of you that it's going to be a lot different this year. It's going to be different for all of us this year, but you know, we were talking before the service started today, and if we do it right this year, if we're safe and healthy and do it right this year, we'll get to do it again next
Absolutely.
year. But if we don't do it right this year, there may not be a next year for some.
That's right. There'll be some empty chairs and empty plates if we don't do it right. So be safe.
Be safe. We want to encourage you to do the right thing, do the loving thing, and be safe for yourself and for others. You know, normally about now we'd be getting ready to sing again. We would sing our, what we call our sung benediction song as we go out the door. But this morning I would like to do something just a little different if I can. Mason mentioned just a few minutes ago, if you were tuned in before the service started during our announcements, you heard the music of Joy Harjo, and I mentioned that she's the Poet Laureate of the United States. And last year for Christmas, I got this book for Mason, An American Sunrise. It's Joy Harjo's latest book of poems and poetry, and it's beautiful. I got up early this morning and was reading through some of this, and it's beautiful, and she's such a beautiful spirit. And I got to say, before I say anything else, that I'm so proud of Mason.
Wow, you should see the comments on Facebook. Everyone's saying, beautiful, thank you for sharing, thank you for teaching us.
Yes, and it's, I'm convinced that's part of the spirit of the Indigenous people, the way Mason shared his heart this morning, and Joy shares hers as well. So this morning, instead of us singing our way out the door, I thought we would share a beautiful piece of poetry from Joy Harjo herself. Friends, we want you to have a blessed Thanksgiving, and we want you to be blessed. Enjoy these words.
The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, you must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it we make women. At this table we gossip, recall enemies and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us, put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves and as we put ourselves back together once again at the kitchen table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite.